Good Thursday morning, everyone, and welcome into today's daily Bible reading for September the 14th. Today, we're reading together in 1 Kings chapter 19. Yesterday, in our read in chapter 18, Elijah had this tremendous, incredible victory by the power of God over the prophets of Baal. And he really had a great showing of God's power that Ahab had to witness. Now, you would expect here in chapter 19 for Elijah just to keep riding that wave of momentum. And yet, unfortunately, that's not what we see. Let me get the text up on the screen for us. We'll read along together here in 1 Kings chapter 19 and verse number 1. First Kings chapter 19, verse number 1. Ahab told Jezebel, his evil wife, everything that Elijah had done and how he had killed all the prophets with the sword. So Jezebel sent a messenger to Elijah saying, "May the gods punish me and do so severely if I don't make your life like the life of one of them by this time tomorrow." Then Elijah became afraid and immediately ran for his life. When he came to Beersheba, that belonged to Judah, he left his servant there, but he went on a day's journey into the wilderness. He sat down under a broom tree and prayed that he might die. He said, "I have had enough. Yahweh, take my life, for I am no better than my ancestors." Then he lay down and slept under the broom tree. Suddenly an angel touched him. The angel told him, "Get up and eat." Then he looked, and there was at his head a loaf of bread baked over hot stones and a jug of water. So he ate and drank and lay down again. Then the angel of Yahweh returned for a second time and touched him. He said, "Get up and eat, or the journey will be too much for you." So he got up, ate, and drank. Then on the strength of that food, he walked 40 days and 40 nights to Horeb, the mountain of God. He entered a cave there and spent the night. Suddenly the word of Yahweh came to him, and he said to him, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" Elijah replied, "I have been very zealous for Yahweh, God of armies. But the Israelites have abandoned your covenants, torn down your altars, and killed your prophets with the sword. I alone am left, and they are looking for me to take my life." Then he said, "Go out and stand on the mountain in Yahweh's presence." At that moment, Yahweh passed by. A great and mighty wind was tearing at the mountains and was shattering cliffs before Yahweh, but Yahweh was not in the winds. After the wind, there was an earthquake, but Yahweh was not in the earthquake. After the earthquake, there was a fire, but Yahweh was not in the fire. And after the fire, there was a voice, a soft whisper. When Elijah heard it, he wrapped his face in his mantle and went out and stood at the entrance of the cave. Suddenly a voice came to him and said, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" "I've been very zealous for Yahweh, God of armies," he replied. "But the Israelites have abandoned your covenants, torn down your altars, and killed your prophets with the sword. I alone am left, and they're looking for me to take my life." Then Yahweh said to him, "Go and return by the way you came to the wilderness of Damascus. When you arrive, you are to anoint Hazael as king over Aram. You are to anoint Jehu, son of Nimshi, as king over Israel, and Elisha, son of Shaphat, from Abel Meholah, as prophet in your place. Then Jehu will put to death whoever escapes the sword of Hazael, and Elisha will put to death whoever escapes the sword of Jehu. But I will leave 7,000 in Israel, every knee that has not bowed to Baal, and every mouth that has not kissed him." Elijah left there and found Elisha, son of Shaphat, as he was plowing. 12 teams of oxen were in front of him, and he was the 12th team. Elijah walked by him and threw his mantle over him. Elisha left the oxen, ran to follow Elijah, and said, "Please, let me kiss my father and mother, and then I'll follow you." "Go on back," he replied. "What have I done to you?" So he turned back from following him, took the team of oxen, and slaughtered them. With the oxen's wooden yoke and plow, he cooked the meat and gave it to the people, and they ate. Then he left and followed Elijah and served him. That is 1 Kings chapter 19. Again, you might be thinking that Elijah is going to come out really gung-ho and super excited and super motivated and encouraged from what took place at Mount Carmel and his victory over the prophets of Baal. But unfortunately, once Ahab tells Jezebel everything that has happened, Jezebel is understandably incensed, for not only has Elijah killed the prophets, but he has killed her prophets. Let's not forget, back in chapter 18 and verse number 19, these were the prophets that ate at Jezebel's table. This was the state-sponsored religion that Elijah had assaulted. And she's very upset by that. May the gods punish me and do so severely. I mean, we've heard people talk about that from the standpoint of Yahweh a number of times. Now she's doing it on behalf of the gods that have been under attack. May they punish me so severely if I don't make your life like their life, if I don't kill you like you killed them by this time tomorrow. And Elijah, instead of taking courage in what God has just shown him through his power, he becomes afraid. He's discouraged, probably discouraged by the lack of visible results. How could Jezebel not bow her knee to Yahweh? Later on, he's going to talk about his zeal and how Israel, they've not changed at all. They haven't turned to you, Yahweh. In fact, they've attacked you and they've disrespected you by tearing down your altars, by abandoning your covenant, and by killing your prophets. Elijah's just very discouraged again, because what he's seeing doesn't encourage him, because there isn't much to be seen, at least from his perspective. So he's left in this very discouraged state. He takes off and it goes under the broom tree. He leaves his servant alone and he goes off by himself, sleeps under this broom tree, and he prays that he might die. This is one of the most interesting things, I think, probably in scripture, is that he prays that he might die. And yet what we're going to see, spoiler alert here, is he's actually never going to die. He's going to be taken up into the heavens by God. And how interesting it is that he prays to die here. I've had enough. I'm worn out. I'm nothing else to give. I'm no better than my fathers. Just kill me now. He's given up. Interestingly enough, he's never going to die. So it's kind of cool how that ends up working out. But Yahweh sends an angel to him and tells him, get up and eat. He does this 2 times. And he tells him, you really need to eat because you need energy for this journey. And he goes on from there for a 40-day and 40-night journey. He walked 40 days and 40 nights to Horeb on just the strength of that one meal. So here is God again, going back to the last chapter, providing for Elijah time and time again. Here he is providing for Elijah again, trying to encourage him in the work that he's doing. And Elijah's just very discouraged. He gets to Horeb, and there the word of Yahweh comes to him, and he asks, what are you doing here, Elijah? Not that God doesn't know, but that he's inviting Elijah to be honest with him, to be transparent, to really express his current state of mind. And Elijah, instead of being encouraged by every way in which God has provided for him, now he says, I'm discouraged. I've been very zealous for you. I've been on fire for you, but it hasn't had any sort of effect. It's not done anything. The Israelites abandon the covenants, tear down your altars, kill your prophets. I'm the only one left, and they're looking to kill me too. It's just very discouraged, Elijah is. Verse 11, then Yahweh tells him to go and stand on the mountain in Yahweh's presence. And at that moment, Yahweh passed by. Some speculate that this actually could be the very cave in which Moses himself, I believe it's Moses, it's either Moses or Abraham, had a similar experience with God, which would be super cool for this particular place to be. Let me see if I can see a quick note here. No, it doesn't have anything in my notes. I'm pretty sure there's something that has possibly happened here before that is being echoed here in Elijah, that all these things take place. There's great power through the mighty winds. There's great power through the earthquake. There's great power through the fire, but Yahweh is not in any of these things. But he does show up finally in a voice, a soft whisper, whispering to Elijah, what are you doing here? Elijah, what are you doing here? And again, Elijah has the opportunity to open up. Maybe Yahweh has presented these things to him to encourage him. But Elijah gives the exact same response. I've been very zealous for Yahweh God of armies, but the Israelites abandoned your covenant, tore down the altars, killed the prophets with the sword, and I alone am left in there looking to take my life too. Here they are wanting to take me down. But then Yahweh said to him, you can almost see him just put his hands, just calm down. Let's get to work. Let's get to work. Have we ever been discouraged and realized that we're discouraged because we're just not busy? Because we're not busy being productive or being able to exercise the energy that's within us. So often I've heard people talk about, just being depressed. If you don't have energy, what do people tell you to do? Get up and get active, be busy, exercise, do something like that. That seems to be what's going on here with Yahweh and Elijah. Hey, let's get to work, okay? This is what we're going to do. You're going to go to the wilderness of Damascus, and you're going to anoint Hazael over the king of Aram. Then you're going to also anoint Jehu, son of Nimshi as the king over Israel. And then you're going to go and you're going to anoint Elisha as the prophet coming after you. And these are all going to be people who are going to play out roles in what I'm working out. So Hazael is going to be someone who's going to stand up against Ahab and his people. Jehu is going to be the one that ends up taking out Ahab's lineage. And Elisha is going to be someone who spiritually stands up to Ahab. So all of your issues, I am working those out, and I'm going to allow you to participate in this as well. Don't worry. Don't worry. I will leave 7,000 in Israel. People who have not bowed in loyalty to Baal, who have not shown their loyalty by kissing him. Don't worry. We've got this, Elijah. So everything Yahweh is doing here is to encourage the prophet. Because, the work he's doing is tough. And, we should recognize just the reality of when you work hard and when you put a lot of effort into something, if you don't see tangible results and fruit from that, it's very easy to be discouraged. I've been there. I've experienced that before, and I'm sure you have too, in some way, shape, or form, where you put so much effort into something and you're trying to be a positive influence for change, and you're trying to encourage people, and you're trying to just do good work, and it doesn't seem as if it's doing anything. It doesn't seem as if you're accomplishing anything. Man, that is so discouraging. That is discouraging. Yeah, what does Yahweh say here? There's still good work that's being done. You just don't see it yet. Maybe that's something that we can remind ourselves of, that whenever we try to be an influence for good, even if we don't see the tangible results, that doesn't mean that there aren't any. We just might not see them. He goes on from here and finds Elisha. He's plowing. There's 12 teams. He's on the last one, and he takes his robe off, his prophetic robe, his prophetic mantle, puts it over him. And Elijah says, Elisha says, hey, let me go kiss my father and mother, and I will follow you. Elisha probably is coming from a wealthy family, and he's willing to sacrifice that in order to follow Elijah, but he does want to go and greet his parents first, show kindness and loyalty to them. I love you, but I've got to leave. But then he burns the bridge to what he was doing in taking the oxen and the yoke that was on them and slaughtering them and cooking the meat and giving that to the people. So here, Elisha isn't delaying his service to Elijah. He's really finalizing it. He's giving finality to it. He can't go back because his oxen and the yokes, they're gone. So he is fully in it now. He has burned that bridge to his past, and now he's focused on the future, being the servant and pupil of Elijah moving forward. And we'll see a lot of the great work that Elisha is going to do here coming up in the next few chapters. We have 3 chapters left here in 1 Kings. We'll be getting into those more tomorrow, looking at chapter 20. And I hope that you will be able to tune in then. If you have any questions or comments about this text, please feel free to leave that in the comment section below. And I do hope, again, as I mentioned, that we'll see you again tomorrow. Have a great rest of your Thursday, everyone. Take care, and God bless.